Mayday, here. 82, we have smoke in the cabin. Contact, how to maintain.
Good evening and welcome to Galactic Terrors, the online reading series that scours the known universe for scary stories, strange tales, weird horror, and all sorts of literary oddities from the most imaginative authors writing in a variety of fascinating genres. This is our transmission for December 2024, and can we believe it's already December?
No, we cannot believe it's already December. Yes, I'm about to start cooking a turkey for Thanksgiving any minute now.
This year has flown by, but we have some fantastic readers with us tonight to end out the Galactic Terrors year. Joining us will be LARA FRATER, Raymonde CHIRA, and RICHIE NARVAEZ. We are excited to welcome them, and we'll be on soon. And I think I may have mispronounced Richie's name again.
Narvaez, I think. Yes.
Narvaez. Well, I always said Narvaez, and then I was trying to read your.
That came from him. Yeah, I think the key answer for Richie is just don't call him late for dinner. You know, yeah.
I think that counts, but yeah. we'll certainly be hearing from everybody tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be fun. This is a high point of a crazy week.
If you have been with us for Galactic Terrors before, welcome back. Thank you for returning. If you're here for the first time, we ask you to click subscribe below on our YouTube channel to follow future Galactic Terrors transmissions. It also helps us get more traffic, hopefully, to all of these readings. And just a reminder that Galactic Terrors transmits on the second Thursday of the month, mostly. Occasionally, we have a few off dates or special presentations, but that's our home date during the month, every second Thursday.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Carol Gyzander, and my co-host here is James Chambers. So we're both also the co-chairs of the New York chapter of the Horror Writers Association, which our chapter helps us put this together every month. So that's really fun.
Yeah. Did I forget to introduce us before?
You might have. I don't know if you said your name either, so I thought I'd say it again.
Well, thank you for catching that. Yeah, as you can tell, we're still a little bit behind on 2024 here. Just trying to keep up and catch up and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And one great way you can keep up with Galactic Terrors is to sign up for our newsletter, which goes out once or twice a month at most, maybe 3 times. But we don't spam you. This is really just to announce who will be appearing on upcoming broadcasts, and then a reminder, usually around the day of or a few days before, that we're going to be airing.
Mm-hmm. And this month, I got to do something really fun in the newsletter. I got to announce an in-person reading as well. You know, we won't be doing extra issues for that, but we started this broadcast during the pandemic because we couldn't go do our in-person readings like we used to before. Right. And it's been really fun. We've gotten to get to talk to people from all around the country and all around the world as well. And in the New York City area, our chapters also started doing some in-person readings, and both of those things are fun, but we still like doing this as well.
Yes, and it's great to connect with the people who are tuning in, and it's a great opportunity for you to all ask questions of our authors about their work, about their writing, about their favorite foods, and whether they like long walks on the beach or not, I guess.
Yes, and that may be appropriate for one of our readers tonight. That's a good question.
Terrific.
So, no, it's very fun. So we already have a bunch of people in the chat, which is really fun. But we were talking about how crazy this month has been, and how we've been all so busy, and are we doing the holiday stuff? But yeah, Nicholas Dyack, as he said, he's got his coquito, some editing to work on, and now it's Galactic Terrors. So yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Nicholas.
So very cool. And
All
thanks for
right.
everybody who tunes in on a regular basis, and welcome to all the folks who are here for the first time. It's very fun.
Yeah.
Aye.
And just to give a shout out to the HWA NY chapter, which sponsors this series. And as Carol was mentioning, we were recently able to do an in-person reading at Shade Bar in New York City, and had a great time doing holiday horrors. So we had a bunch of our chapter members break out their best holiday-themed horror fiction and give some readings, and had a great little time, great gathering, and some really creepy and occasionally cheery stories.
And it's important to note that holiday horrors are not just the conversation that goes on at the dining room table with the uncomfortable relative. It's not just that. There's a lot of fun things. But ghost stories were a big tradition in Victorian times to read around the holiday times, right? So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, we had some ghostly tales in the mix.
So cool.
All right. Well, not too much in the way of news to report for the HWA NY chapter at this point in the year. We're all kind of, I think, trying to coast through to the new year, and we're glad we could get in on your calendar before the holiday season really hits high gear with Galactic Terrors. And I think, unless there's anything else you'd like to cover, Carol, maybe we should jump right into our readings.
I think that would be terrific. And what I'd love to do is tell you about our first reader, LARA FRATER. LARA is an author and librarian from New York City. She writes novels and short stories of horror, sci-fi, and dystopia, plus essays and poetry. Her short stories have appeared in Tales from the Canyon of the Damned, Necrotic Tissue, and Soul Scream. She's the author of the novella series Miss Davis and the Movie Monsters, the paranormal suspense series Paranormal Pest Control, the zombie series End the Line, and the nonfiction book Fat Chicks Rule. Her essays include Fat Heroines in Chick Lit, The Statue, and several chapters about library science. You can find her and more about her at larafrater.com. Lara?
Hello. I'm going to be reading from my new book, Jersey Devils, which is the first part of the Miss Davis and the Movie Monster series. This book takes place in 1962, and I'm going to just read chapter 1, and we'll go from there. So each chapter starts off with a movie scene. So B-roll, external, forest, day. We see forest trails and trees, and then a field, quiet except for the sounds of nature. A long pan crosses the trees from right to left. There is the sound of wings flapping, and then the sound of a horse. The pan stops as the camera falls over, and a scream is heard, followed by laughter. Nora Davis clenched her hands, tightened her shoulders, looked straight into the mirror, and screamed. From deep in her diaphragm, with every one of her muscles contracting, she felt the tension of the scream down to her toes, and the rest of her body trembled. Tears came out of her eyes, and her stomach lurched. She didn't count, but estimated it lasted a good 10 seconds before she needed to take a breath. When she released, a wave of lightheadedness overcame her. Her muscles felt tight, and her eyes twitched. She glanced at the mirror. The scream messed up her curly brown hair and caused her eyeliner to run over her cream-colored skin. She used a tissue to clean her eyes. No, she told herself, not scary enough. She glanced at her Timex, a gift from her father for her 16th birthday. She wound it while she waited for the second hand to hit 12. Her goal, a 20-second scream. The minute hand hit the 12, she screamed again, but forgot to take a breath. It caused her scream to peter out in a few seconds and left her with a scratchy throat. She snorted, out of breath. Dear Lord, Nora, that was terrible, she told her reflection. She took a sip of her cherryade, letting the icy sweetness trickle down her throat. too hot for tea, and she forgot to bring honey. Under the Boardwalk played low in the background our brand new transistor radio, courtesy of her final paycheck from the phone company. She knew she should have used it for rent, but she saw last year's Sony TR-15 in the windows of Gimbals for sale for $14. An extravagance, but Nora needed a lightweight radio to bring, not like the used 20-pound behemoth radio she had at home. Nora waited a few minutes before rehearsing her scream again. She thought of Patricia Owen's scream in The Fly when she first sees Al Hedison wearing a rubber fly mask. Nora stared deeply into the mirror again, wishing she was more glamorous, with blonde hair and knockers like Jane Mansfield. Instead, her brown hair sat limp, dry, and so frizzy it looked like her head had been one of those newfangled clothes dryers. The hot, humid air didn't help. Sweat found its way into every crease, pooled in her bra, her underwear, the back of her knees. She didn't think New Jersey could get this hot, especially in early September. But she had made it. Her trailer might be 10 years old and smell of mildew, but it doubled as a dressing room for her, the star. Well, the female lead of a low-budget film. With 60 lines compared to the male lead's 127 lines, Nora counted. Normally, Nora wouldn't compare, but she found her snake of an ex-boyfriend, Andy, had the male lead. When Nora walked into last week's table read in the city, Andy jumped up and told the producer and director to fire her. They refused. Later, he told her he would get her fired on the first day of filming. And today was the first day. Nora had not seen Andy yet. She had only met Kenny, who would play the monster, a kindly middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair who had picked Nora up at the Trenton train station and drove her from the highway to an old general store in Chatworth, where she got some snacks and drinks. From there, the paved roads turned to bumpy, dirty ones where Nora heard nothing but trees, and the only sign had been for Wharton State Park. Kenny warned her not to leave the set alone, as the area was still undeveloped, despite plans to build an airport nearby. Nora had no intention of leaving the set or being outside with mosquitoes more than she had to. When she arrived, she bumped into the director, Kane, briefly. He told her to practice her scream. A pimply-faced kid, whose name she already forgot, showed her to her trailer. Nora would play Ellie, a girl in trouble hiding from the police in the Pine Barrens. Andy played Rod, the hero who comes searching for the troubled girl. The humidity made Nora scratch her leg. If only she'd get rid of her garter or stockings and garter. Nora hoped playing a bad girl meant shorts and capris. Her door opened without a knock. "Hair, costume, and makeup in 10, Miss Davis," said the pimply-faced kid. He really wasn't a kid, probably her age, but his blemished face made him look younger. He tried to remember his name. Joel? Jonah? Or Mike? He called himself as the assistant director, but really he ran errands for the director and everyone else. Many people on this film did double duty. Kenny, the stuntman, was the monster and a policeman. "Next time, knock." "I heard you screaming. Figure you were practicing. Remember, 10 minutes. He left the trailer, letting the door slam shut. This had to be better than her previous job as phone operator. She forgot to disconnect the call, and a lady on the other line learned that women could, in fact, swear. Nora took the entire blame, claiming every voice the lady heard. She looked over her lines and cringed. She knew the film was low budget when she signed on, but a child could write a better script. Maybe Kane should stick to directing. She thought these creature features were a thing of the past. Nora adored movies, and most of the theaters hosted westerns and thrillers. Kane insisted his vision was more than a creature feature. It dove into female delinquency and happened to have the Jersey Devil. Still, she had the lead, and this project would lead to something better. Nora stretched and heard her door open again. "You said 10 minutes. We need to talk." Nora turned. A frown crossed her lips as she saw the producer. Max Gates had a dreaminess to him, blonde hair with a sprinkle of white and blue eyes. Nora might find him handsome if he wasn't a slimeball. Gates had been handsy with her since the table read. She thought of telling Kane, but decided she didn't want trouble. She needed this film, needed the money. The paycheck meant enough to get to Hollywood. "What can I do for you, Mr. Gates?" "I have new pages." He held out tight pages that looked wet from his sweat. Still, Nora snatched them. "Are these from Kane?" "No, from me." "I didn't think you were a writer, Mr. Gates." "I think it gives the movie some class. I heard your scream. Sounds good." Nora started reading the pages, but didn't finish. "You call this class?" "Well, maybe not class. Maybe making it more worldly, he said as he stretched out his arm. They already have nude scenes in French films, and they don't have a problem with it. This isn't a French film. This is Jersey Devils, low budget and low paying. Marketed to horny teenagers and drive-ins. You call that worldly? I'm a lady, not some French girl. I'm not here for horny teens. Gates laughed. Lady, that's funny. And you are far from a French girl, maybe if you lost 50 pounds. Mr. Gates, I believe it is time for you to go. I am not doing this new scene. I agreed with Kane. At most, I would wear a low-cut blouse and a nightgown, but nothing in my bra or undergarments. It's not like it's nude. I'm sure you can get one of those new lacy bras. Mr. Gates, please leave. Remember, Miss Davis, you owe me a favor. I saved you from being fired. Kane saved me. I'm not a lady of the evening. I don't do favors. Perhaps you would like me to type up something for you. I type 15 words a minute, or perhaps cook. You can ask Andy about my cooking. I believe he said charcoal tasted better, and that was when he liked me. Very funny. You need to loosen up. Nora stood up and slammed the pages into his hand to go to wardrobe. Nora tried to push him aside, but he grabbed her wrist. You need to behave. I am behaving. You're the one hurting my wrists. Nora used her other hand to push open the door of her trailer. Shall I call out, Mr. Gates? He loosened his grip quickly, causing Nora to stumble. She recovered and walked down the stairs into the sandy ground that gave off summer heat. The nerve of that man. Nora walked away, glanced back to make sure he didn't follow. Kenny pointed out the wardrobe trailer when they arrived. Trailers circled a small field surrounded by trees. It surprised Nora they got that space. She heard the Pine Barrens, an undeveloped part of New Jersey, didn't seem like the best place to film. In high school, Nora had excelled at little but theater and English. She set fire to the counter in home ec. She flunked typing school, tried nursing school where she tripped with an inoculation and accidentally stabbed the doctor with it. Even Nora's mother had thrown up her hands, told her to marry a rich man and hire a housekeeper. She only had her acting talent, but with that came new issues. Nora had been told she had the chops for it, but not the look. Too frumpy, a potential agent told her. Nora had done a few ads where she played the chubby housewife scrubbing dishes, a playing queens booned by old people, and a maid on the soap opera The Guiding Light. Nora walked towards the trailer. Around her, people worked on the set, which didn't impress her. Most scenes would be outdoors, and several trailers had been designed for indoor scenes. Gates had hired a handful of locals to help build the set. As they worked, they didn't look at her at all. Nora opened the door to the trailer and found 3 women on the other side. A thin, middle-aged white woman wearing a dress with a high collar and long sleeves worked at a sewing machine. A chubby girl with a bronze skin and dark eyes and hair and eyes looked at hairbrushes and sat by a beauty parlor chair with a sink behind it. A black girl sat across from the chair. All 3 women looked at her when she entered. Miss Davis? The white woman asked. Yes, I'm Edith Jones, the costume designer. What is your size? A 10? Usually an 8. Good to meet you, Miss Jones. Mrs. Jones, Edith corrected. Kane did say you were chubby. Come here so I can measure you. Nora cringed but obliged, moving towards Edith. Edith moved something hideous off her table, dark green and covered by what looked like a plush carpet. What are you staring at? Edith asked. Nothing. Just trying to figure out what you're working on. That is the beginning of the Jersey Devil. Nora let out a snort. Any monster would be laughed out of the forest wearing that. Edith said nothing. She pulled out a measuring tape and swatted Nora with it. She wrapped it tightly around Nora's waist and made a tiss sound. Hello, she said to the other women. You don't need to talk to them. They just do hair and makeup. For your clothes, Edith tissed again. I'm going to have to let everything out. Kate said you were at 8, but not quite. I think my character should wear capris or shorts. Women wear dresses or skirts. That's what I have for you. Edith pulled the tape measure hard against her waist again. The character's supposed to be a bad girl. You will wear a dress or skirt. Wearing a revealing top is about as far as I will go. Give you a minute to let out your costume. In the meantime, you can get your hair and makeup done. I'm just going to skip a little bit. The door of the trailer crashed open. Nora turned to see the director. Abel Kane stood 6 feet tall, with rail thin with jet black, slick-back dyed hair. He wore a polyester dark green suit and had an unlit cigar hanging from his mouth. He slightly intimidated Nora because he had the power to fire her, but he looked ridiculous. Mrs. Jones, where's my costume? He acknowledged no one else in the room, even his leading lady. Right away, Mr. Kane. Edith picked up the monstrosity. This? It looks like you pasted carpet to a ballet costume. Nora let out a little snort, and Edith glared at her. It's not finished, Edith defended. Finish? Kane rubbed his face. Kenny won't be able to fit into this. Edith dropped the torturous measuring tape and began arguing with Kane. Nora went over to Carmen and Sally. Carmen got out of the chair and patted it. Why don't we start on your hair? No, 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 Edith yelled. Take off all your clothes except for your undergarments. She turned to Kane. Let's take this outside. Kane said nothing. He followed Edith out of the trailer. And if you want to find out more, because I know now we're just in the early stages where maybe there's a monster or maybe not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lara. That was terrific.
Thank you.
Lots of fun.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So this is part of a series, Miss Davis and the Movie Monsters.
Yes.
What is the overall premise of the series? Is every novella going to feature a type of movie monster?
Yeah. Well, yes. Essentially, it's like it's kind of an Inception type thing, where they're filming a movie, and every time the monsters are real.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, they're filming a fictional Jersey Devil movie, but maybe the Jersey Devil will show up. And in the next book, they are filming a vampire movie, and maybe vampires show up. And then the third book, it's called Viva Moth Vegas. So and it has so moths show up, a lot of monsters show up. It's the third book, so everything is loose.
That's cool. So what inspired you to go in that direction? Are you a big monster movie fan?
I actually am. But what happened is there was a call for writing like a B movie type novel, and I said, what if they're filming a movie but the monsters are real? And I was trying to figure out what era I should put it in, because I'm like 50s, 60s, like that kind of monster movies, or 80s. And then I just said, you know what, I want to do like a 50, 60 horror monster movie, and that's right. And then I said, in the first book, I said, I want to do something about the Jersey Devil.
That's cool. And I don't think we've ever gotten a really good Jersey Devil movie, have we? I can't think of one.
Well, the only thing this was just funny that they did it on What We Do in the Shadows, had a Jersey Devil episode.
Okay.
And it was hilarious, but I don't think there's been any. And unfortunately, this book is also not that serious. So it's a kind of a silly book. And because I try to make it seem like it's a B movie within a B movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember back in the 90s, the X-Files tried a Jersey Devil episode, and it was just not the Jersey Devil.
Yeah. I don't know if I saw that. I haven't seen all of the X-Files. I've seen like a lot of them, but I don't think I saw that one.
But I was wondering then too, going a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, if you're a fan of movies where they're making the horror movie. And as I was thinking that, Nicholas Dyack came up with a really on point question, which is, did you like the 90s Ed Wood biopic?
I love that movie. I love that movie so much. I mean, it's a great movie. Everyone is in that cast is good. Just Johnny Depp is great. Martin Landau, even Bill Murray, just his little see. I like all kinds of if it's done well, I like it. Movies about and Ed Wood, his movies are just the gold standard of B movies.
Definitely, yeah, they are a special kind of viewing experience.
Yeah. I mean, I was more interested. I mean, I watched bad movies when I was a kid. We had the monster movie in the afternoon when you come home from school. But then I got into Mystery Science Theater 3000, and I got a whole new world of B movies. And even today I was looking, I'm like, what B movies came out like in 1964? Another great thing about this book is I had to do a lot of research about when movies came out, when music came out, because there's a lot of further in the book, you find that she's like a big music fan. That's why she wanted the radio. And one of the songs actually is, even though I couldn't use lyrics, but one of the songs is featured as an important in defeating the Jersey Devil.
Okay. So
Yeah.
did you wind up doing a lot of research for the period?
Yeah, I had to figure out if things existed yet, because a lot of things didn't. Like in 1962, there were no cassette tapes, and
Yeah.
some movies. Like I actually had originally the book took place in. I don't want to spoil it, but it took place earlier in the summer. But I decided to move it to later in September because of a song that hadn't come out yet.
Okay.
And I really wanted to use this song, and I'm like, okay, it came out this year, but it didn't come out until September. So I have to move the action to September. And I've done that also with the other 2 books where a certain song didn't come out, and I had to change the date so that song was already out.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you really are
yeah,
you're
I'm
paying
sure
attention.
I'm sure I got stuff wrong. I'm sure people are gonna come up and go, "You know, it's this and this," and I'm like, I did my best.
So do the other 2 books take place in the same general time period in the 60s?
Yeah, it takes place every
Okay.
2. It's the same characters, and it takes place about every 2 years. So the next one is 1964, and then the last one is 1966.
Okay.
So I also do some like sign of the times and things like that, and like changes in the world.
And so tell us a little bit about Paranormal Pest Control too. That sounds like it might be monster movie adjacent.
Yeah, so Paranormal Pest Control came out about a year and a half ago. It's actually it's about demonic. It's mostly demonic bed bugs, but it's actually demonic bugs. And the main villain in the first book is a giant, is a giant ghostly bed bug. And so essentially, some kind of this one takes place in modern times. A portal opens, and demons come out, and demonic bugs come out, and people who are psychic become they're more enhanced. They can sense more, and people start getting powers. And it's the first in a series. I kind of When I got the Miss Davis ones, and then I have the zombie books. They kind of took, but I am going to get back to book 2. But book 1 is out, and book 1 of Miss Davis is out, and the zombie book it's out, but it's not out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, were the demonic bed bugs in any way inspired by real experience with bed bugs?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what's the difference between a demonic bed bug and a New York City bed bug? I'm not sure.
None at all. I said maybe they're not giant, and they don't throw sofas at you. They could destroy your sofa where you have to throw your sofa out, but they don't actually throw the sofa at you.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
You're working up to
Soon maybe.
terrific. Okay, well that sounds like a fun series too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before you mentioned the afternoon monster movies, I'm just wondering if that was the 4 p.m. movie.
I think so. I don't remember. I've shared this story before, but I used to
Okay.
go over to my neighbor's house after school, and we would watch monster movies. And the neighbor's kid, we watched Island of Terror,
Hmm.
and I think I was 6 years old, and we watched this movie, and it's essentially monsters suck your bones out. And then at the end of the movie, they're like, "Oh, good thing this is just an island." And the neighbor's kid looks at me and goes, "Oh no, it's not just on an island." And then I had nightmares for months. But
Ah,
yeah, I don't remember like what time. I just remember like there was always some kind of monster movie on in the afternoons.
yeah.
Yeah,
Richie just gave me a quick note that it was the 4:30 movie,
yeah.
which
I mean,
and they would do like Godzilla week, Planet of the
yeah,
Apes week,
yeah,
and like the
yeah,
Food of the Gods, Mysterious Island week, and
yeah,
okay, yeah, that
yeah,
stuff was great.
yeah. I mean, I was actually a little bit. I mean, I'm not young, but I was probably a little bit young when that was like a really big thing. But I did, I did watch a lot of monster movies, and then I said I'm a huge fan of Mystery Science Theater, so I saw a lot of that, and I said that's how I got more into B movies from there.
So when you're thinking of a new story along those lines, do you start with the monster or with the characters?
I think it depends on. It's usually the monster.
Okay.
Like for the zombie stuff, I wanted to do a zombie thing, and then I started thinking of the characters. And the same thing, although in Paranormal Pest Control, the main character is actually a character from another series that didn't work out. So I just stole her from that series. So she's an much older character, and I said I have to bring her into something, and so I brought her into this. And I said, but the having bed bugs, it was like, oh yeah, okay, they're just evil, and this was kind of therapeutic to get through that. So I wrote this series.
Cool. Yeah, and that's, I mean, the old adage for writers is never throw anything away. You never know
Yeah.
when you're going to use another character somewhere else or something.
Yeah, I have a huge folder of I have stuff on paper, and I have stuff on the computer of stuff that just never saw the light of day. But I'm like, I really like this character. I'm like, I'm taking this character.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think to go back to Nicholas again briefly in the audience, he agrees with your approach. Start with the demonic bed bug.
Well, I read that. I think I read it for like a previous Galactic Terrors. I think I read either the there's a short story that if you sign up for my newsletter, you get a short story in the Paranormal Pest Control universe.
Oh, very cool. Can people sign up for your newsletter at your website?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we put that in the chat. So if anyone wants to check out
the
Paranormal Pest Control short story, go on over to Lara's website. Terrific. All right. Well, Lara, thanks so much. We'll have you back on and in a little bit to talk about some other stuff.
Okay.
And thanks so much for reading.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Our next reader tonight is RAYMONDE CHIRA. RAYMONDE is a writer of strange fiction and comics. She has an affinity for aquatic settings and grim damp horror. Electronic copies of The Off-Season, an anthology of coastal new weird, can be ordered from Dark Matter magazines, from the Dark Matter magazine shop, or directly from Amazon Kindle. And we'll put links for that in the chat in just a minute. She lives in New York City and can be followed at ChiraRaymonde.com or on social media platforms as @TheSaltyLibrarian. All right. Welcome, RAYMONDE.
Evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much to Carol and James for giving me this chance to share this big new moment for me. This is my first short story in print. I've been digitally published before, but this was a big moment. I'm very proud of it. Glad I get to share it with you. And before I jump into the off-season, I just want to mention that this is more than being my book. Very much belongs to my wonderful editor, Marissa Van Uden. And as much as it's mine, it is it's the product of the 24 other writers who brought it to life. So thank you so much for all that. And I'm going to read you the first third or so of my contribution, which is called Hell's Shells. Before getting into that, I'll just let you know that the anthology contained within it are strange and surreal stories of disquieting and disturbing new weird horror set in landscapes and communities on the edge of the sea. These unsettling tales defamiliarize the ordinary, evoke dread in the daylight, and haunt like a half-remembered dream. They are tales of mysticism, psychedelia, outsiders, obsessions, collapsed boundaries, weird sea life, and the total abandonment of reason. Welcome to your stay on the other side. Please check your sanity at the door. And I saw that it was on the coast, so I was like, I've got to submit. Please let me make it. So thank you again. Hell's Shells. 3 days before the drowning of Erin Gundry, she rose before dawn and met the suffocating air of mid-July. That summer was humid like a yoke on the shoulders, weighted down by barrels of brackish water. The motel's AC had gone out overnight. Her father was already gone, so she gently woke her mother and told her to drink some water and complain to the motel staff. "Honey, it doesn't bother me," her mother said. "They're letting us stay here half the rate. Humidity is supposed to be through the roof today. It's not safe at your age. I'm still kicking. I'm stronger than I look." Erin stepped into the ebbing darkness and set off to meet up with her father. The Singing Sands Motel stood between the beach and the main town of Scuttler's Bay. She took the long path to the water so that she could pass the docks. There was her father and his feet hanging over the edge of the pier. "We need to get out of here before everyone wakes up and the boat club arrives," said Erin. "Half those boat club fools are summer people," said the old crabber. "Besides, crew's waiting for us at the graveyard." The morning wind cut through the muggy air and cooled the sweat on their sunburned skin. She looked into the sea as the sun broke the horizon. Before the storm, she felt there was nothing sweeter than the saline breeze blowing in her face on the hottest day of the summer. Now that scent only reminded her of the advancing ocean that had carried away her childhood home last year, and she wondered if anyone in Scuttler's Bay could escape these waters in time. They walked down to the beach to meet the rest of the salvage crew. Seabirds called out over Erin as she stepped carefully to avoid any rhubarb jellyfish. The crew were drinking coffee from a shared thermos, and she chewed out their foreman, Harvey Douglas, for not rationing enough for her. He grumbled that kids shouldn't drink coffee, and Erin snapped that she would be 21 in a month. The ship graveyard extended out deep into the bay, but retrieving those vessels required equipment the buyers never wanted to cover. Besides, the profit for the crew was bigger just scouring the beach. They could keep things going by salvaging vessels like the whale canoes, which had once carried tourists beneath the surface in the shallows. The crew had skinned those boats down to their frames and sold them all to an amusement park in Royal City. Erin's biggest payday had come when she pulled the steering wheel off the wreck of the Sweet Tooth and sold it to a museum. That was the first vessel to pull in sugar-snapping crabs in 1893. Now the graveyard was mostly picked clean skeletons. The crew needed every minute of low tide to rip apart the remaining wrecks. "How much you think is left here, Dad?" asked Erin. "Another 3 years of work for this crew, I reckon. Of course, the wrecks aren't crabs. Environmentalists aren't going to swoop in like they know better. And wrecks don't replenish their numbers either. Not on their own anyway," he laughed. "Don't go getting ideas." They were supposed to continue salvaging what they could from a capsized ferry pontoon and remove vintage seats. But when the crew reached the established wreck, Erin thought she was seeing a mirage. Where once there had been only sand behind the dilapidated ferry, there appeared from the ocean a vessel from yesteryear. The Venus Smiles. She looked at it, and then at the haunted expression on her father's face. It was a good ship in its heyday, and he'd told her how it brought in sugar-snapping crabs by crates that could feed the town and still have enough left over to process for buyers across the country. At 61 feet, and with a crew of powerful watermen under Captain Sidney Cobb, it had been the last offshore vessel in the town's fleet before it disappeared. The sea had stripped away any outward majesty, but the crew descended upon her hungrily nonetheless. As her father helped Erin scale the starboard hull, he wept with rapture. Harvey Douglas ordered that not a thing be removed yet. They would mark up anything in good condition and report it to Captain Cobb. Erin found the stairs that led below deck, and she and her father descended to look for the captain's quarters. Soon, they were waist deep in water. They waded onward, listening to the sound of the ocean beyond the walls. As they wound through the corridors of the Venus, the air grew still and hot as a hell of dark water. The captain's quarters were dim and mostly submerged. All of the furniture was fixed to the walls and encrusted with barnacles. Erin ran her hands over the barnacles and found a crook where she could slide her fingers. She took the spade from her backpack and began tearing them from the wall. The two shoveled away at the barnacles, which plopped into the water to join the sound of the waves. Erin tried to relax and breathe in the humid air. As they worked, her hands had become slick with something that wasn't water. She held one up to the faint light of a porthole and saw it was covered with black liquid. "Black Star barnacles," said the crabber. "The one kind that can spray ink. Don't worry about it. They're not poisonous, and they can't spray out of the water." It struck Erin then just how black the waters became. Above her father, bolted to the back wall with brackets, was the skeletal jaw of a green fin beaming shark. "Yep," he said, noticing where she was looking. "I reckon he put it there so it'd be the first thing anyone noticed when they came in. Crew used to joke that since he seldom smiled, he mounted that thing to do the work. Only known shark species that don't frown. This was our claim to fame. Marine life like nowhere else on the coast." "I know." "No, you don't." "I wish you could have seen it all, my girl. Not that I wanted you to have a waterman's life. Proud of my work, but I know when something's dead. Much as I'd love to see you on that ocean. Just don't go on resenting it." Suddenly, Erin felt something shift around her ankles. In an instant, she was under, blinded by the pitch-black water. It was hot, even hotter than the air above. It rushed into her with ferocious speed. Just as quickly, she was coughing again in the open air. She wiped the seawater from her eyes. Her father had pulled her up, but now he cried out in pain, gripping his back. "Holy fuck!" Erin retched up another gulp of black water. "Dad?" He leaned against the wall. Each time he went to straighten his back, he groaned. She took his arm before he could fall under too. By the time they returned to the beach, water still clogged Erin's ears, and she could hear the resonant sound like a conch shell's echo. Her father went back to the motel to recover, while Erin and the crew worked until the afternoon high tide. She spent the rest of the day at Pitot Penny, trying to reclaim her high score at pinball. Mr. Pitot plugged in a fan for her after a while. After nightfall, when she opened the door to the motel, the AC's flow turned her sweat cold, making her squirm. She had only started up the stairs when she heard it. A squelching noise, like many feet scurrying over a wet surface, coming from just over her shoulders. She told herself it was just seawater that hadn't drained from her ear, but then, from the periphery of her vision, she caught sight of a tall, hunching figure shuffling down the hall toward the elevator. It disappeared around the corner. Even in that fleeting glimpse, she recognized Captain Sidney Cobb, with his gray cap, slouched shoulders, the long beard that lost none of its red with age. In Suite 27, she found her parents in bed but wide awake. The AC was pumping, and color had returned to her mother's face, but Erin still saw too much exhaustion for someone who spent all day at a cash register. "Dad, did Cobb just come by?" "What?" he asked, yawning. "I haven't seen him in weeks." That night, Erin dreamed of that bright sea she remembered as a child, until it heaved and crashed, and she woke startled and panting in the motel, wondering if the water was closer now than it had been the day before. 2 days before the drowning of Erin Gundry, her ears still pulsed with that black sea water. I think I'll wrap right there. You can read the rest of Hell's Shells and many other great weird coastal horror in the off season from Dark Matter Inc.
I just want to thank you for helping to bulk up my Christmas list that I can ask my family to get me. So this is awesome. This is awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for this reading. Really, really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And just to kick us off, Nick says, as a great Captain Haddock would say, great blistering particles.
I know that you attributed it, but I heard it in Mr. Krabs' voice. That shows my generation. You know, I'm the kid in the room.
That's fair. That's fair. I used to listen over my kid's shoulder as he was watching it. Yeah. No, that's fun. No, excellent reading it. I love this story. Oh, I can't wait to see what happens. My gosh.
Well, you kind of know what happens. I spoiled it.
Well, it's okay. That's okay. That's,
It's not how we get there.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's how we get there. That's the most fun part. There's all sorts of different genres of things, but my favorite thought is that every story is some kind of a mystery, because if we knew everything that was going to happen and how we figured it out, why would we read it? So there's some sort of something there. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. So I am also fascinated with ocean stuff, and I have a lot of creepy short horror stories where the cephalopods are pretty peeved at us for what we've done with the environment, and that's actually, I think, how we met after the Echo Horror panel at StokerCon. We started talking about this stuff.
We ended up in like the courtyard of the hotel,
right?
And we just struck up and we started talking about climate change, the ocean, how it's changing our whole relationship with oceanic horror, but also it's just accentuated the themes that are already there.
Yes. Now, what got you interested in this whole topic?
I'll be completely honest and say that the spark was really the call from Dark Matter. I figured but of course there had to be the interest already there, and that's kind of what lit it up. And I realized, wow, I actually have a lot of ideas around that. And I think part of it was my parents had just moved. They've retired and moved to Long Island.
Oh.
So I'm getting a lot more exposure to the ocean. I'd always loved to visit coastal areas. Just came back from a great trip to New Orleans, which is just a great horror city, but also specifically a great, as I like to say, grim, damp city. Not my term. I saw it on Blue Sky. I forget who said it, but it's pretty great. But I think that there is, if I'd say the nugget of it and where so much spins off is just the contradiction of water, that we need it to survive. It is so essential to our survival, both on an individual level and how we can build up towns and villages and cities. And in a lot of ways, it is the biggest threat to those. We can drown extremely painful deaths. It's just been described as one of the worst deaths imaginable. And while we can think of things like fire, out of the Bible, the very real threat that we're looking at so much now is water. Is looking at things from Katrina, or over in Asheville that we saw earlier this year, which was supposedly a climate haven because it's so inland, but we saw the exact same things we were seeing in Katrina. We were just seeing floods, homes totally submerged and just plunged beneath. And from there's just so many possibilities. You could talk about that deadliness of water. You could talk about the fact that you are always a guest in water. You need it, but it can kill you in minutes. the fact that it contains so many huge, frightening alien things. You could just go on that material for 7 different careers. And maybe I'm just rambling at this point.
No, it's awesome. But you're actually touching on one of the questions that we got in the chat as well.
Good.
From our good buddy Nick. Lots of aquatic horror has tropes like a ghost ship, a shark animal that eats people, giant Cthulhu under the sea. Getting out of those tropes, his question was, what do you feel makes unique and great aquatic horror? And you're already talking about that a little bit, the fact that it's like the only place on the planet that we can't survive for more than 30 seconds if we're, completely...
Yeah. I mean, if people don't mind, I could spoil one of the final line of spoken dialogue in the story. Should I do it?
Sure.
Because this was I think the line that I just arrived at and wrote the entire story backward from there.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, which was and I won't reveal who Aaron says it to, but
okay.
Because, if we were really the masters of this planet, how come we only float when we're dead? The line out of It, which is it's vaguely similar to It, but different enough. Stephen King, please don't sue me.
I need you to make a T-shirt of that, please, because I think that would be pretty awesome to wear.
Sure, exactly.
How come we only float when we're dead? Wow.
I'll find a good. I work in comics, so I'll find a good letterer to come up.
Oh
with
yes. That would be.
But in answer to that question, who was it who asked the question?
That was Nick who was asking.
In answer to that, in terms of what makes it unique, and those are all great tropes. But yeah, it's that so many are emerging. I think that climate fiction is maybe the most apparent one right now. But you can also analyze what is your personal relationship with it. Are you someone who lives on a coast in, say, a fishing town, which very much informed this story, because that was, not myself, but a lot of people I knew intimately and talked to about it for the story. And one of the things you're struggling with is seeing how the industry that supported your town is dying. So in one way, it could also be, it can also be like a story of how a whole community is dying. It's becoming like a corpse, in an odd way. There is that interesting way the ocean can decay things.
Yes.
So that's just one I can think of. But really, that's the answer to any unique thing, is think about what you bring to the table. Yeah.
And what is it that really scares you? Because if it scares you, odds are it's going to scare somebody else too. Yeah, that's cool. And then just one more quick question then. This is all new weird fiction, which is something that I've been getting into more and more, and that I like a lot. I don't know if you've, delved into that at all before. Do you have any thoughts on what really is new weird fiction?
That is tricky. Marissa has a great essay that opens the collection.
Oh, cool.
About all that. Marissa's the editor of who compiled the book together. And she had a lot of very good insights. She also talked about a big part of it is shifting the vantage point of it all, because I think a thing that we always need to talk about in weird fiction is what is strange. It's associated with Lovecraft, and with that comes the baggage of, well, for him, what was strange and frightening were people of color, or really just anyone who wasn't the right shade of white. And a lot of new weird is about, it's like thinking about, okay, stories coming out of the global South, people on the margins, women, trans people, and kind of defamiliarizing what we think of as normal, and inverting that, because then, everything feels strange when you're made to feel strange. So I think that's at least one element of it. And
really pointing it.
Yeah. And she talked about the coast is a good, and Marissa said that she read about how the coast is a point of negotiation, not quite not quite the land, not quite the sea. And it's a very good place to explore those themes.
Almost the liminal zone. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of, urban, sort of secondary, if I think of like China, Mieville and Perdido Station, that's a really urban kind of thing. But, it's looking in detail at what's going on underneath the different levels of it and such. And, yeah, so that's very cool. Well, this has been so cool. And I think, we need to go hop on a bus and go up to Mystic Aquarium and take a field trip up there. I think that'd be great.
Say hi to the cephalopods for me.
Yeah, sounds terrific. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Raymond. We'll have you back in a few minutes to talk about more with the group. So,
sure, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. What I'd love to do now is introduce our last reader, Richie Narvaez, who is the author of more than 70 published short stories, 2 novels, Hipster Death Rattle, and the Agatha and Anthony awarded Holly Hernandez and the Death of Disco, and 2 short story collections, Roach Killer and Other Stories, and Noir Yorican. More about Richie is available at richienarvaez.com. Richie?
Hi everyone. Welcome. I want to thank Carol and James for having me here. I've been listening to Galactic Terrors for a few years now. It's really nice to be on here. Shout out to 2 of my students, Nadia and Haley, who are out there in the audience. I'm going to read a story that you might have heard before. I'm sorry. I hope it's slightly interesting. Anyway, this story is from the collection A Night of Screams, Latino horror. It's got some good people in it. It's edited by Richard Santos, V. Castro, Ana Davila Cardinal, Pedro Iniguez, Tony Plummer, Lilian Rivera. So you can put that on your holiday list. And the book that you guys showed was Noir Yorican, which also has some lovely horror in it. But I'm going to be reading A Thing with Feathers. Let me get in the mood. Okay. My agent grew heavy on my shoulders. With each second, I became dizzier, hazier. Tell me again, I said hoarsely. Tell me again about the book deal. Of course, darling, she whispered in my ear, coffee strong on her breath. Monarch Publishing is offering you a $100,000 advance on The Strangest Sea, and they want a sequel. But everybody dies at the end. Sequels are in. You'll figure it out. They're hungry for it. Hungry, I tell you. And they want you to add more romance and some fantasy elements. What? Did I tell you? Meryl Estevez will be editing your book. Meryl Estevez. Oh my. My vision blurred. So hard to believe. Are you not a great writer? Is the world not dying to read your words? Yeah, Then believe it. Believe it. Her tendrils sank deep into my neck, tightened around my spine. Never lose hope. Her dusty wings fluttered and her full weight settled on me like a battleship, a skyscraper, a moon, and I shivered with bliss. Hours later, when I left my agent's office, I wanted to celebrate and called my girlfriend, Araceli. This is it, baby, I told her, the big time, 100 grand. I don't know, Edwin, she said. Didn't you just meet this agent? Do you even know if she's legit? She could be a con woman. She's not. She knows people. She knows Meryl Estevez. Meryl Estevez, she has like a jillion Instagram followers. See? Come on. Let's get a big steak dinner, then get stinking. That sounds terrific, Edwin, but I'm afraid Idelise and I can't. She has her recital tomorrow, remember? I'm getting snacks together now. I could hear her daughter, Idelise, in the background rehearsing, "This girl is on fire." at the top of her lungs. Right, sorry, I forgot. I hung up and called my friend Yo Elvis. He was always up for a good time. We agreed to meet at the White Horse Tavern in the West Village. I took a stool at the bar, and 10 minutes later, he walked in his leather duster and his paunch-filled, pay no attention to my browser history, I'm a writer t-shirt. The first thing he said to me was, dude, you look awful. Screw you, I said, surprised at how much it sounded like the cackle of a cancerous smoker. We got a table and I opened my pleather briefcase to show Yo Elvis a bottle of mid-range champagne I'd bought at some point on the way over. I couldn't remember where or when, actually. I said, hey, I got a book deal with Monarch Publishing. We're going to celebrate. Wow, which book? The Strangest Sea. Really? That one? Yeah, that one. And they want a sequel and romance and a fantasy angle. But you despise fantasy and romance. And don't all the characters die at the end? Yo Elvis was a writer too, had struggled for years to get his yawn epic spec fic / noir novel accepted. He'd asked me to beta read it, and I tried, I did. But it was 1,200 pages long with maps and a glossary. I couldn't get through it. So I just did a spell check and told him it was solid. The waiter, too good looking to not be a wannabe actor because New York, marched over and chewed gum at my bubbly. You can't bring in your own liquor. We have champagne here if you want. Yeah, no thank you, I said, not wanting to pay $15 for what was likely a glass of flat liquid. Sorry, I lost my place. So I ordered a Manhattan. After the waiter left, Yo Elvis took out a Swiss Army knife and under the table worked open the champagne. When the cork popped, Yo Elvis coughed loudly. The waiter gave us a look, but we just twiddled our thumbs. Whenever the waiter's back was turned, Yo Elvis and I took turns swigging from the bottle. Here's to success, I said. Success, Yo Elvis said. Hey, I thought you just sent this agent the manuscript last month. I did, but this agent loved it, sent it right out. And Monarch, they loved it. Called her to accept it right away. I'm that good, you see. I just had to believe in myself. Yo Elvis was a good friend, but at that moment, I could smell his envy, taste it in the air between us like a hot dog burp. I knew what he was going to say next. He toyed with his plastic coaster like a teenager getting up the nerve. Hey, maybe, do you think, could you introduce me to your agent? I haven't had much luck, and if I just had the right agent, I don't think so, I said. Her dance card is filled. Sorry, pal. It wasn't that. I just didn't want to share my agent. I wanted her to focus as much as she could on me. This was my chance to rise. Stumbling home that night after 5 Manhattans, I remembered we'd left the empty champagne bottle under the table. I wish I could have seen that waiter's face when he found it. I spent the next few days thinking about my book deal. I was on cloud 9, cloud 11, hell, cloud 500 trillion. My agent had said she would send over the contracts, and I watched my Gmail like it was a kettle, and I kept watching. It was taking a long time. While this waiting was going on, I decided, what the hell? I'd go to that Association of American Authors annual ball I'd been invited to. Even though I'd been paying my yearly dues, I'd been skipping the monthly association meetings, having gotten sick of people bragging about their agents, their editors, their life-changing book deals. But now I finally had something to brag about. I dressed up, wore my good blazer, not the one from J. Crew. At the ball, I was happy to enjoy mouthfuls of shrimp cocktail because I'd been feeling kind of wan lately. As I lingered by the food, Ignacia, an acquaintance / rival / one-time Yaddo Writers Colony fling, slid next to me, kissed me wetly on the cheek. She said, "Hi, It's exceptional to see you. And I said, Meryl Estevez at Monarch will be editing my novel. Your novel? Really? Just then, a tall woman passing by in a tailored pantsuit 180'd like a Ferrari. I recognized her instantly and began schwitzing. Excuse me, Meryl Estevez said. Did you say my name not to be nosy, but I'd love to hear the context. I shook her hand with gusto. Holy smokes, Mrs. Estevez. It's a pleasure to meet you. Yes, you're going to be editing my novel. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to working with you. Êtes-vous qui? Grinning. I told her about the $100,000 two-book deal. She said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I know who we read, I know who we sign, and I know I have never heard of you or your book. Ciao. She turned away, searching for someone more interesting, and vroomed back into the crowd. Ignacia didn't even try to hide her smirk as she moved toward the baked brie. See you on the bestseller list, she said. I was flabbergasted, embarrassed. I left without having another shrimp. I called my agent as soon as I got outside. No answer. At home, I wrote her a long email. Had I misunderstood what she'd said? Was it another editor at another house, an Errol Mestevez or something like that? Should I start a sequel or what? How much romance should I put in? How much fantasy? And if so, did she think bringing back all the Strangest Sea characters from the dead would be cool? Or should I jump ahead a generation? Should I do a prequel? Could she get back to me ASAP? Days went by, weeks. I didn't want to be that author, didn't want to get a rep as a pain to work with, didn't want to screw myself over for any future opportunities. So months went by. The euphoria of the book deal wilted. I began to wonder about what I really wanted. All this uncertainty, all this waiting, all this anxiety. Was it all worth it? It was winter before I psyched myself up to see my agent in person. Her office was in an apartment building on the Upper East Side, and the first thing she told me when I signed with her was that I should never, ever come by without an appointment. But I needed the lowdown, so all bets were off. The door guy didn't even look up when I walked past him and took the elevator. When I got off my agent's floor and to her door, lucky for me, another person was just leaving her apartment. Another writer, no doubt, because she wore huge tinted glasses and a vast scarf that, whatever it had once been made of, was now mostly cat hair. A major advance, she wheezed as she stumbled past, hugging the paisley wallpaper, a dreamy grin on her face like she just huffed a bag stuffed with lotus leaves. Major. Filling the doorway were books. Stacks and stacks of books, some going as high as the ceiling. A narrow gap between the teetering piles formed a corridor that led me to the back room. Spilling out of the doorway was paper. As I got closer, I realized these were typewritten pages, pages and pages of manuscripts. Closer, I saw the room itself was filled several feet deep by these pages in a circular pattern with a depression in the middle. My agent lay in this nest. She was bloated, enormous. Edwin, darling. Hey, I said. She rolled herself over to the bottom of the stairs stack and began to climb it. She motioned for me to move towards its summit. I don't know, I said. But darling, I have seen the future, and yours will be lit by 5-star reviews. Did Monarch? Who needs Monarch? I'm starting my own publishing company. You sign a contributory contract and your book will be out in less than a week. And what's more, you'll make 40% of the profits on ebooks, that is. Didn't you say small publishing companies were a bad thing? I was so wrong. It's a much steadier vein. And consider this, darling. We can publish your book as is. No added romance or fantasy. And in fact, not a single edit. Well, I'd like a copy edit. That's what spell check is for. and you can even design your own cover. Her wings, gleaming now, fluttered slowly, causing a breeze and pushing the dust of the apartment in my face. I sneezed, sniffled. I guess. Don't be abashed, Edwin. Turn around. I didn't know what to do anymore, so I did as I was told. Her tendrils penetrated skin, entered the back of my neck, melded with my veins, wrapped themselves around my spine, and sucked. I surrendered to bliss, the bliss of possibility. Ah, hope, she said, smacking her lips. There's absolutely nothing in this world like fresh hope. Thank you. Hope you like
Oh
that.
man. Oh man. Every author who's listening to this is cringing.
I hope that my reaction of cathartic laughter was appropriate.
Yeah.
At certain points, it was just, oh my gosh, Yo Elvis is a brilliant character. I think
Oh
I
my
would
God.
be hanging out with him, and I loved spell check, and it's solid.
Yeah. You said that's what spell check is for, and editor
Yeah.
Jim and editor Carol just burst out laughing. Yes. So
Yeah,
my God,
it-
Richie, that's awesome.
That's
What a
awesome.
great story.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
think you might have heard it before, Carol, at some other thing. So I'm sorry if it's
No, but
familiar.
no. I would listen to you read that 5 times in a row. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Very sweet.
Terrific. So how did you come about crafting the story, sir?
Well, the writer's business is something I think we all have in common, and we all have kind of post-traumatic or ongoing trauma from. And I had recently separated from my agent, and I had found the relationship weird, I guess. And that, I mean, not as traumatic as this, and not, she didn't suck on the back of my neck, but I did feel that, but I did feel that the relationship between agent and also through the publisher, I began to see more how exploitative it was. And it felt to me like, oh yeah, this is very much like some creatures that feed off of all the hopes and dreams of writers. And then I just, I was thinking about that idea of hope. I took the title from the Emily Dickinson poem, and it fed into that, and it sort of one thing led to another about this idea of some creature that is encouraging a writer in order to suck out the thing of hope. Yeah, that's actually a reduced story. It's actually about twice as long when in the anthology, but I wanted to not take up too much time on the podcast.
No, this gave us a wonderful taste.
I think Lara kind of encapsulated most of the writers on this on tonight's broadcast. This is terrifying.
Yeah, so. I think we all fear something like this, being exploited, people taking advantage of us because we don't know, but also I think a lot of writers don't want to argue. They just like, oh my God, if I'm a pain in the ass, they're gonna kick me to the curb, so I better not say anything. I better not. I
shouldn't stand up for myself. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But show us the book again. What was the title of the anthology?
This is A Night of Screams, Latino horror stories, and this was published last year. And yeah, it's Arte Publico came out last year. It's pretty nice. So yeah, put it on your holiday list. And then, this is the one that I did a couple years ago, Noirican, that you guys mentioned. And then this story will also be an anthology that is out, being pitched to publishers now. A new anthology that I hopefully will have out either next year or the year after, of all spec fic and horror stories.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
So you started out mainly in mystery and crime. Is that correct? Writing mystery.
I started out as a poet and a literary writer, wanting to crack the New Yorker and do all the great Puerto Rican novel. But I found myself drifting into genre I
Yeah.
resisted it. I think as a lot of people do, because like, oh, how are you going to become an important writer? How are you going to do something interesting? It's like, oh, that other stuff is silly. But then it's what I loved. It's what I grew up reading. A lot of Chandler,
Mm.
Agatha Christie. So I actually didn't think I could write mystery stuff, puzzle mysteries and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But I took a crack at it, and I found that yeah, all that muscle memory from reading all those pulp novels came through. And so yeah, I started off originally with mystery, but I've always dabbled a little bit with horror and a
Mhm.
little bit with science fiction, spec fic.
Well, you did channel some of the mystery stuff into like little things like an Agatha or an Anthony Award, those things. Yeah.
Oh, that stuff. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
just that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But
But I think the line between, I guess, what we call literary fiction and what we call genre fiction is blurring more and more these days. I think we're seeing a lot more genre fiction published with literary sensibilities and published as having those literary sensibilities than we used to, in my opinion. I mean, I could be off base, but I do think people are recognizing, the value of genre fiction. It's not just those dime novels or the pulps or the
Yeah.
paperbacks that you used to pick up at the train station or whatever. And
Yeah.
um,
I think it's it's the artificial labeling that
Mm.
we've had to deal with in the last, 30, 40 years that have come out from giant bookstores and from publishing
mhm.
that has separated genre from, horror and spec fic from the literary. But if you look back at a lot of our classic novels, they use a lot of crime fiction elements.
Yeah.
There's a lot of murder in many, many classic stuff that you read back in high school to impress your teacher. There's Macbeth is one. Othello is a perfect noir story. That's a noir story. I mean, sorry, Oedipus Rex is a noir story.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But Othello is also actually, yeah, Othello is also a noir story. But a lot of classic stuff uses a little spec fic, uses a little horror elements. So it's all there. It's only I guess in a sort of weird elitism, they started separating us out. But no, the lines have always been, they've always been crossed. It's just an artificial separation that have bucketed us, unfortunately.
Yeah, the bookshelf
Yeah.
label has done it.
Yep.
But I know a lot of people who write cross genre stuff, and they just call themselves a suspense writer because
Yeah.
it could be mystery, it could be horror, it could be whatever. So if it keeps you on the edge of your seat and you keep reading, that's good.
Yeah.
So, cool.
So do you have a preferred mode or genre that you like? That like what's home when you're sitting down and writing something just for yourself?
Just for myself, I actually end up going to humor and
Okay.
a lot of metaphorical stuff. I do like a lot of social justice things, especially more lately. I like stuff to have a reflection or resonance in the real world. I think the recent election has sort of set my mind on fire about how I can answer that, maybe not to change the world, but at least for me to be able to uh, put my mind around how to live in that world. So fiction helps me in that way. And yeah, I use a lot of, I like killing people in my stories, but I also like it to have some sort of parallel or something to happen that's happening in the real world.
Well, your
Metaphor,
first, I think
yeah.
it was your first novel, Hipster Death Rattle,
Yeah.
was tackled gentrification,
Hmm.
which was is still a major social
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a constant, and certainly in the capitalist system where people just, or I guess in maybe it's just a human thing. People want to move in and move other people out. That idea of displacement. But
Mhm.
that novel came from my having been born and raised in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, uh, and those of you who know New York, you know that back then it was a nice working class neighborhood. This is the 60s, 70s, 80s. And then in the 90s, it became this target for developers. And a lot of the people I knew were forced out.
Yeah.
And Hipster Death Rattle was, as I was saying, sort of my way to understand what was going on. And that one was, for me, a great attempt at trying to say something, but using genre to get to it. So it ended up becoming it's a lovely story about a serial killer using a machete to bring up the crime rate and make Williamsburg less palatable to yuppies.
Yeah. Cool.
We,
Cool.
so we have a question along these lines from I think Nadia Amina.
Nadia.
Do you struggle with getting social justice elements right, doing it justice, so to speak, in your writing?
Oh, excellent. That's not hi Nadia. She's one of my students at Sarah Lawrence. Excellent question. Yeah. This actually there was an interesting discussion that I had with Nadia during one of our conferences. When you try to talk about something, even from gentrification, but let's say something as hardcore as racism or sexism, and you're wrapping it in these things of, oh, let me make the racist an elf, or let me make this horror story about. I mean, a lot of horror and other stuff is metaphor, but sometimes it can feel like, oh man, especially when times are really dark as they are now. What am I doing? Is this enough? But I think we can't, when it comes to, we look at our work as like, look, it's very likely that I'm not going to change the world with my little short story, but it helps me understand the world for myself. And maybe someone out there who reads the story goes, oh yeah, I agree with that. I feel seen by that, or that's an interesting idea. So, not changing a lot of things. And getting more to Nadia's point, it's a constant thing to make sure that you're saying the right, trying to say enough about a subject, especially a difficult subject. You have to really do research. And as writers, we don't want to be too polemical. So you want to try to get as much of other parts of arguments and not make, for example, people look two-dimensional. You want to really explore the subject in order to make it feel like, because that's part of the process of fiction. So yeah, it's not always easy. It does not, frankly, Nadia, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes I think, shoot, that I really just made cardboard villains. But when it comes out right, when it feels like, and I think Hipster Death Rattle, I think came out pretty good. Yeah, but it is a struggle. It is a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing, just one other quick comment here. It's something else you got perfect in the story. Haley Shucker says, because New York, it's a great vibe. That was just like, boom, right there. That was awesome.
Yeah, New York is no New York. And I think, and I'd love to write about the city and throwing in the White Horse Tavern, which is where I used to hang out there. Yeah. I think a lot of people will know that and feel familiar with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool.
Terrific.
That's very
well, Richie, thank you so much for sharing the story and for your wonderful reading. And I think we're going to have Lara and Raymond rejoin us, and
cool.
We'll do some chatting. All right.
Yeah.
So Lara, Raymond, thank you too for your awesome readings and for sharing your work with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a fun night because we had very different stories, but they were all very cool.
And this is also my first encounter with the term grimdamp. I love it. It's like I could immediately think of like 6 stories that fit grimdamp.
We'll make it a thing.
Yeah, we should do. We should make a list. Yeah, that's terrific. Yeah.
That story terrified me really, because I think I've been for that. I think I have, like, they have sucked a little bit of my soul, publishers.
Yeah. We're all just yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, cool. No, that's really fun.
Especially when you're like, starting out, not quite know what the red flags look like.
Yeah, I have like 8 minutes of power left on my PC. So if I suddenly leave, yeah.
Well, let's ask you first.
Yeah.
Let's ask you first, Lara. So we talked a little bit. You guys talked a little bit about your series and different things like that. So what's the next thing that's coming up for you?
Well, I said the Miss Davis series. Only the first book is out. I'm not sure when the second or third book are coming out. There's 5 books in the zombie series coming out, and they'll be coming out hopefully in rapid succession, but I just sent in the last book of the series, so I'm not sure like what their schedule is, and
Okay.
And of course holidays. So
Holidays, yes. And I want to see more Paranormal Pest Control because that was such a freaking creepy, awesome, wonderful book. Every time I was reading it, I just had to keep going like that.
Scratching, yes, scratching.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working. I have book 2. I'm working on it. Out of I was working on it, and then I got this, and I had to kind of put it aside. But I definitely want to get back to the series, and yeah.
Excellent. Well, they're just multiplying under the covers. That's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly more. In fact, I actually have 4 books in the series, although the 3rd and 4th book are kind of not quite finished. But the 4th book, there's going to be a lot of a lot.
Yay! Okay.
It's going to be a swarm of books.
Yeah, and I had problems like getting beta readers for that one because people were like, no, it's like people were like,
oh,
yep. Oh, yeah. That
first.
Yeah.
Lara did not have 8 minutes left, apparently.
No, that bug's got her. Yeah.
Oh,
That bug's silence Lara.
Oh my God. All right. Well, we'll see if Lara pops back in. We'll bring her back on. Otherwise, thank you, Lara. It was great having you on, and hopefully you didn't just drop into an alternate dimension.
Maybe it was a better dimension than this one.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And what about you, Raymond? What's
what's coming up?
Yeah, what's coming up for you?
All right. Yeah, nothing immediately on the horizon. Not like nothing I can give dates to. But definitely coming off a lot of good momentum from this and other things that I had out this year. I'm continuing to kind of work with this water theme, but in different respects. I just finished up two more stories. They're kind of thematically linked. One's called Waterbug. It's kind of reminiscent of what Lara was talking about. The other is called Razor Blades in Your Feet, and adaptation of The Little Mermaid.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm hoping I can get them all collected. Oh, Lara's back.
That's great.
And this is my desk, and you're going to hear every sound in my household because
I love it.
That's great.
The scurrying of the bed bugs. No, we won't hear that.
I have to say my husband sucks because I texted him to bring my charging wire. You want to be? He's coming.
He's awesome. Come on.
Hi, I had to do a dish 6 minutes ago, and I suck. Sorry.
John's awesome. Stop that. Yeah.
All right. But Raymond, why don't you wrap up what you were telling us?
So in addition to those, I am also talking with an editor now about like an interest in these sort of in these wet horror stories because she's interested in that and she would love to see them pull in collection. The only thing she specifically asked for is she really wants to see a novella up front. And so I am working with a lot of research on basically kind of the polar opposite to Hell Shells, because you remember all I talked about, like the ocean and the humidity and all that stinking heat. This story, this novella, is set on a glacier, and it's all about that slow burn of like the water moving within a glacier and just inevitably waiting for its time to bring you doom.
It's slowly creeping at you. That's awesome.
Yeah, the tentative titles for the novella are Into Thin Ice, and this for the whole collection would kind of basically be Fear of Water.
There we go.
Terrific. Well, keep us posted. When things are happening, we'd love to have you come and read from that.
Totally. Razor Blades is X-rated, so
maybe not from Razor Blades.
Just read every other word; it'll be fine. Yeah.
Just lots of beep. Yeah. Beep, beep, beep.
Oh my gosh!
All right.
And Richie, so New Yorican is your latest, is that correct?
That's the latest. Yeah, that came out a couple of years ago. Noir Eureka, that one
Noir
came out.
Eureka.
Yeah, Noir Eureka. And then so I have 2 short stories coming out next week, actually, online. One at Shotgun Honey, and one at Kings River Life. I was very prolific in the last month because of the election, so a lot of stuff got sent out. I've been writing a lot of short stories. Now I have to write a grim damp story.
Yes.
I've been inspired. I love discovering new genres and playing in them. I do have a collection. You might remember I did a short story called Room for Rent a couple of years back. That got some good notice, and I'm putting a collection together around that. Well, I put a collection together, so that is out, seeking representation. So I hope any agents in the audience were not offended by my story. But if not, but it's under consideration out there. So thank you, Nadia. So I'm hoping that I'm working on finishing that up and polishing it, and then I will have a fiction book also I'm hoping to finish in the spring. So I'm working on that. But look for my short stories next week. One will be on Shotgun Honey, and the other one on Kings River Life.
Okay, and are those
find me on Instagram?
shotgunhoney.com and
shotgunhoney.com and Kings River Life. You can just do the Google and find it, or just go to my link tree via my Instagram or my website.
Terrific. Okay, great. So some fiction to look forward to next week.
Recording. So just putting that out there too.
I'm sorry, what was that, Raymond?
At the time of this recording, I'm also unagented. Yeah.
I too am an agent, and I love agents. I love agents.
All 3 of us.
Agents are great. Yes.
Just watch out for the ones with feathers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
we have time to answer Haley's?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. We have one more question from the audience, which is a great question. For all of our authors tonight, what are your go-to book recommendations, particularly from diverse authors?
I really like Justine Ireland's. She did an alternate universe zombie where the Civil War ends essentially because of zombies, and essentially all the former slaves, or if they want their freedom, have to be like the front of the line zombie hunters.
Oh,
it's really good. It's a 2-book series.
And that was Justina Ireland?
Yeah, Justina Ireland.
Terrific.
I guess me, kept it in the same order. Let's see. One that came out this year from Tenebros Press is From the Belly by Emmett Nahil, who is a friend of mine, very helpful when I was starting out, and very much under the grim damp historical fiction umbrella. It's fantastic. It is a horror, queer, erotica romance about a bunch of sailors on a whaling vessel who recover a strange, very hot, fully living man from like the belly of a whale that they've captured, and from this one crewmate and the relationship that he has with them. It's quite chilling.
Wow.
So the title is From the Belly.
Yeah, From the Belly by Emmett Nahil.
Okay.
Emmett Nahil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend, of course, Night of Screams, because it's a lot of great horror stories by Latinx authors. Just came out last year. There's also my friend Matthew David Goodwin has a series of Latinx spec fic anthologies that are very good. The latest one is out this month. It's called Not Your Papi's Utopia. And it's all stories about utopia and dystopias and the tension between them. So Not Your Papi's Utopia, edited by Matthew David Goodwin. And I have a story in there.
Cool.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the recommendations. Definitely.
I have one I want to throw out there too. I just can't help it. Mark Abbott is one of our New York
yeah.
chapter members, and his new novel, Sinister Ascension, is releasing right now. As a matter of fact, they're doing a launch thing at Q and Willow on Friday for it. But it's got a very different take on what a vampire is, which is kind of a nice change of pace. So yeah,
I would second that recommendation. I've read it, and it's Mark is a terrific writer, and his take on vampires in this book is unique. It's a vampire I've never seen before,
and never hope to see again. Yes,
in person. Yes,
yes, in person. Yes, book 2 would be fine.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the recommendations. It's perfect time of year to give people some tips on some great books they can buy or gift, and hopefully you'll check out the books by our readers tonight. I think they're all available. I think we have links for all of them in the chat, so go ahead and check those out.
Yeah, books make terrific gifts, whether you're asking for them for yourself or giving them to someone else. So
support your local indie bookstore.
Yes.
And not Strand right now.
Yeah, it's very cool. Coming up next month, our next Galactic Terrors reading is Thursday, January 9th. Remember, it's almost always the second Thursday. And that includes readers Matthew Kressel and Elaine Pascal. So that's going to be very fun. Yeah. So we'll have more details about that coming up as well. So,
and if you'd like a reminder.
Yeah. Jim, just a quick word from you. Anything coming up new from you in the next near future, or?
Oh yeah, I'm sure something's coming.
2025 is coming. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I have to be honest. I'm not quite. I'm still in a haze from the release of Where the Silent Ones Watch.
Yes, it's just come out. It's getting great attention.
Yeah, it's been getting a great response from readers, and I hope everyone's enjoying it. And definitely have stuff in the works for 2025, but mostly stuff I'm not quite ready to announce yet.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on, but I've just brought out Discontinue If Death Ensues, Tales from the Tipping Point, and this is we're calling it Stabby Feminist Horror. It's 5 women. Yeah,
I have that, and I'm reading it right now.
Awesome! Thank you so much.
I would show you it, but it's in the other room with the other books.
Where the battery died. Yeah, don't go near, it'll suck you dry. Yeah. And then this is finally coming out right before the end of the year. Dark Spores. This is Mushroom Horror, and this is a great anthology of stories. We invited a bunch of authors. Jim has a story in there, and a bunch of other people and stuff. But my co-editor and our cover artist have both had major life upheavals recently, and so everything got delayed. But it will be out before the end of the year, and we will tell you more about a special presentation that we'll be doing on our same StreamYard thing here. So
fungal horror.
Just to bring things full circle, it occurred to me Where the Silent Ones Watch, which is an anthology of stories inspired by or set in literary worlds of William Hope Hodgson, definitely has some grimdamp going on.
Yeah. I was thinking Hodgson when I was listening to that story, because a lot of his stuff is set out in an ocean, and there's a creepy ship, and there's barnacles, and there's like a deserted island. It's like, oh, wonderful.
Yes, yeah. Cool. And then one other thing that I just want to tease for next year, we are going to be doing some new things with Galactic Terrors. We occasionally shake up our format or just try to do some different types of programs to keep things lively. And one of the things we're going to be doing is adding guest co-hosts on a regular basis from the HWA NY chapter. So we'll be announcing those sometime starting next year, where we'll be bringing in somebody from our chapter to kind of help us run these shows and ask more questions. So readers coming up for next year, be ready. They're already working on their zingers.
Yeah, it's gonna be lots of fun. So I love having people on a chat.
You better decide now how you feel about the Oxford comma, because it's going to be
That's fair. Well, listen, everybody, thanks so much for coming and joining us. And I think this was a great show to wrap up the 2024 season. And I really appreciate having y'all on. And Jim, thank you to you as always. It's, a pleasure doing these and chatting with you as well. So
likewise, Carol. And thank you for all the behind the scenes work that you do to keep us on schedule and keep us scripted. And
even if it's done in the tick of 9. Yes.
And a big shout out to LARA, who does our video graphics and really goes above and beyond to make us look good. Thank you, Lou.
Yes, true. All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.